I still remember the exact moment I realized my marriage was over. Not because of what Marcus said, but because of what he didn't say. He just stood there in our bedroom doorway, suitcase in hand, and when I asked him if there was someone else, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Does it even matter anymore?" That's when I knew. That's when everything I'd built for 12 years just crumbled. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about getting your heart ripped out. Sometimes, just sometimes, you're holding all the cards and you don't even know it yet. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. I love seeing where you all are tuned in from, so drop your city in the comments below. But I also need to know, after you hear what Marcus and his little girlfriend pulled in today's story, what would you have done? Would you have handled it like I did? Or would you have gone a completely different route? Drop your location and your honest opinion, because I'm curious if I'm the only one who thinks revenge tastes better when it's served ice cold. All right, let me back up and give you the full picture. Marcus and I met when we were both 23. I was working 2 jobs trying to pay off student loans, and he was this charming finance guy who seemed to have his life together. What I didn't know back then was that Marcus didn't actually have anything together. His family did. His grandmother, God rest her soul, was the one with the real money. She'd built a successful chain of boutique hotels across the South, and when she passed, she left Marcus a $5 million trust fund. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Marcus's grandmother didn't just hand him a blank check. She was smart. She knew her grandson had a tendency to make impulsive decisions, like the time he bought a boat he used exactly twice, or when he invested in his buddy's revolutionary energy drink that tasted like battery acid and dreams. So she set up the trust with specific conditions. Marcus would get a monthly allowance, but the bulk of the money? That could only be accessed with approval from the designated trustee. And who do you think that trustee was? Yeah, me. When Marcus and I got married, his grandmother pulled me aside at the reception. I can still see her sitting there in her lavender dress, holding my hand with those paper-thin fingers, and she said, "Janelle, I'm making you the trustee of Marcus's trust. Not because I don't love my grandson, but because I do. He needs someone with sense to help him make good decisions. You're the only one I trust to do that." I was 25 years old and terrified. I tried to tell her I wasn't qualified, that maybe his parents should handle it, but she just squeezed my hand tighter and said, "You're exactly who needs to handle it. Promise me you'll protect him from himself." So I promised. And for 12 years, I kept that promise. I managed that trust fund like it was my own child. Every major purchase, every investment, every financial decision, I made sure it was sound. When Marcus wanted to invest $200,000 in his college roommate's tech startup, I said no and suggested he start with $50,000 instead. Good thing too, because that company folded within 18 months. When he wanted to buy his mom a house after his dad passed, I helped him find a beautiful place within a reasonable budget instead of the mansion he initially wanted that would have eaten up $500,000. I wasn't controlling. I was careful. There's a difference. And Marcus appreciated it. Or at least, I thought he did. He'd always introduce me to people as his better half and joke about how I kept him from buying stupid stuff. We had a good life. A beautiful 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood outside Atlanta. 2 cars. Annual vacations to the Caribbean. We were trying for a baby. Or so I thought. The cracks started showing about 6 months before everything fell apart. Marcus started working late more often. He'd come home smelling like perfume that definitely wasn't mine. This sweet, vanilla-heavy scent that made my stomach turn. When I asked about it, he'd say it was probably from a coworker giving him a hug or something. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Then, his phone habits changed. He started taking calls in the other room. His screen was suddenly facing down on every surface. He changed his passcode. When I mentioned it, he got defensive and said I was being paranoid, that he deserved privacy, that marriage didn't mean we had to share everything. And like a fool, I backed off. I told myself I was being insecure. That work was stressing him out. That we'd been together so long, we just needed to reconnect. I planned a weekend trip to Savannah. I bought new lingerie. I made his favorite meals. I tried everything, but nothing worked. He was slipping away, and I could feel it. The real bomb dropped on a Tuesday evening in March. I came home from my shift at the hospital. I'm a nurse practitioner, by the way, and found Marcus in the living room with 2 suitcases. Not small ones, the big ones we used for international trips. My heart just stopped. I stood there holding my work bag, keys still in my hand, and I couldn't even form words. Marcus looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was just nothing. Like he was looking at a stranger. "I'm leaving," he said. Just like that. Flat. Matter of fact. I finally found my voice. "What are you talking about? Where are you going?" "I can't do this anymore, Janelle. I haven't been happy for a long time." That's when my brain started working again, and the questions came flooding out. How long had he been unhappy? Why didn't he tell me? Could we go to counseling? What about the life we'd built? He had answers for none of it. Just kept saying he needed to leave, needed space, needed to figure himself out. And that's when I asked the question, the one I already knew the answer to, but needed to hear him say. "Is there someone else?" That's when he said it. Does it even matter anymore? Which of course meant yes. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. 12 years. 12 years of partnership, of building a life, of being there for him through everything. His father's death, his career changes, his failed business ventures that I helped clean up financially. 12 years, and he was just done. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the couch in the dark, replaying every moment of the last year in my head, looking for the signs I'd missed. By morning, I decided I needed answers. Real answers. I called my best friend Tasha at 6 in the morning. She picked up on the second ring, voice thick with sleep, saying, "Somebody better be dead." "Marcus left me," I said, and my voice cracked for the first time. She was at my house within 30 minutes with coffee and donuts, and a determination to find out what the hell was going on. It didn't take long. Tasha has a cousin who works at the Ritz-Carlton downtown, and after a few phone calls, we had our answer. Marcus had been staying there for the past 3 weeks, not alone, with a 26-year-old named Destiny, who worked as a hostess at some upscale restaurant in Buckhead. Destiny. Her name was Destiny. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things. I wanted to drive to that hotel and cause a scene that would get me arrested. But I didn't do any of that. Instead, I sat down at my kitchen table and started thinking like the trustee of a $5 million trust fund. Marcus called 2 days later asking to talk. We met at a coffee shop near our house. Well, my house now, since he'd abandoned it. He showed up looking guilty, but also weirdly excited, like a teenager who'd just gotten away with something. He told me he'd fallen in love, that Destiny made him feel young again, that she understood him in ways I never could, that he wanted a divorce so they could start their life together. I listened to all of it, took small sips of my latte, didn't cry, didn't yell. When he finished his speech, I asked one simple question. "What's your plan?" He looked confused. "My plan?" "Yeah, Marcus, your plan. For your future, with Destiny." That's when he laid it out. He wanted to buy a condo in Midtown. Something modern and sleek where they could start fresh. He was thinking about finally opening that restaurant he'd always dreamed about. Destiny had experience in the industry and could help run it. Maybe they'd travel for a while first. See Europe, maybe Asia. He talked about all of this like money was no object, like he'd forgotten one crucial detail. So I reminded him. "And you're planning to fund all of this, how exactly?" He actually had the nerve to look annoyed. "From my trust fund, Janelle. It's my money." I set my coffee down carefully. "It is your money. You're absolutely right about that. But you need trustee approval for any withdrawal over $10,000. And I'm the trustee." I watched his face change as reality hit him. It was like watching someone wake up from a dream and realize they're actually in a nightmare. "You wouldn't," he said. "Wouldn't what?" "Wouldn't do my job? The job your grandmother specifically gave me To protect you from making impulsive, stupid decisions? His jaw clenched. This is different. This is my life. And that's still a $5 million trust fund that I'm legally responsible for managing. So if you want to buy a condo, start a restaurant, or travel the world with your girlfriend, who's young enough to be our daughter, you're going to need to convince me that it's a sound financial decision. Marcus's face turned red. He started raising his voice, saying I was being spiteful, that I was trying to control him, that this was exactly why he was leaving. Other people in the coffee shop were starting to stare. I stayed calm. I'm not being spiteful, Marcus. I'm being a fiduciary. There's a difference. You want a divorce? Fine. We'll divorce. You want to be with Destiny? I can't stop you. But you're not getting unlimited access to that trust fund to finance your midlife crisis. That's not what your grandmother intended that money for. He stormed out, actually knocked his chair over on the way out. It was dramatic. But here's what Marcus didn't know. Here's what he'd somehow forgotten over 12 years of marriage. I wasn't just the trustee. According to the terms his grandmother had set up, if Marcus and I divorced, I would remain the trustee unless I voluntarily stepped down or a court ordered otherwise. His grandmother had been very specific about this. She'd seen too many family members marry people who drained the family wealth and then disappeared. Sure, the trustee position wasn't tied to the marriage. It was tied to her trust in the individual she'd chosen. Marcus figured this out about a week later when he went to see a lawyer. His attorney apparently told him that getting me removed as trustee would require proving I was mismanaging the fund or acting against his interests, neither of which he could prove, because I had 12 years of meticulous records showing every decision I'd made had been financially sound. The phone calls started after that. First from Marcus, begging me to be reasonable. Then from Destiny, crying and saying I was ruining their chance at happiness. Then from Marcus's mother, Diane, who informed me I was being vindictive and cruel and that her son deserved to access his own money. I blocked all their numbers. But I did take one call. From Marcus's lawyer, we who wanted to negotiate. He suggested that in the divorce settlement, I agree to step down as trustee in exchange for a reasonable financial settlement. I told him I'd think about it and hung up. I wasn't going to think about it. I already knew my answer, but I wanted them to sweat a little. Meanwhile, I filed for divorce on my own terms. I had an excellent attorney who'd been recommended by Tasha. Since the trust fund was Marcus's separate property from before the marriage, I wasn't entitled to it in the divorce. But our house, that we'd bought together, the cars, the joint savings account, all that was fair game. And Marcus, who'd been so eager to start his new life, suddenly realized he'd walked away from the marriage with nothing but his monthly trust allowance, which was a comfortable $5,000 a month, but nowhere near enough to fund the lifestyle he'd been planning. The next few weeks were like watching a slow-motion car crash. Marcus moved out of the Ritz-Carlton because even with Destiny splitting the cost, it was eating through his allowance too fast. They got a much smaller apartment in a less trendy part of town. The condo in Midtown? Couldn't afford it without a big down payment from the trust, which he wasn't getting. The restaurant dream? Dead on arrival. No bank would give him a business loan without significant capital to invest. And again, he couldn't access the trust fund. Europe and Asia? Canceled. They took a long weekend in Miami instead. And from what I heard through the grapevine, they fought the entire time because Destiny had envisioned 5-star hotels and Marcus had booked a 3-star place near the airport. It was beautiful to watch karma work, but the real kicker came about a month after Marcus left. He called me from a number I didn't recognize, so I actually picked up. "Janelle," he said, and his voice was different, smaller. "Can we talk, please?" Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. Same coffee shop. I figured it was neutral ground. He looked terrible, like he hadn't been sleeping. He'd lost weight, and not in a good way. "I made a mistake," he said as soon as we sat down. I didn't say anything, just waited. Destiny and I, we're not working out. She's not who I thought she was. She's immature, and she only wanted me for the money and the lifestyle, And now that we don't have that, she's just... He stopped himself. I messed up. I know I did. And I'm sorry. Still, I said nothing. I want to come home, he continued. I want to fix this. We can go to counseling. Whatever you need. I miss you. I miss our life. Now, here's what the old Janelle would have done. The Janelle who spent 12 years taking care of Marcus, managing his money, protecting him from himself. That Janelle would have felt sorry for him, would have considered taking him back, would have believed that people make mistakes and deserve second chances. But that Janelle died the night Marcus walked out with those suitcases. The new Janelle? She took a long sip of her coffee and said, "No." Marcus looked stunned. "No? No, Marcus. You don't get to blow up our marriage for a 26-year-old who made you feel young, realize she was only interested in your money, and then come crawling back because your plan didn't work out. That's not how this works." "But I love you," he said. And he actually had tears in his eyes. "I never stopped loving you." "You know what's funny?" I said. "I actually believe you. I believe you do love me in your own way. But you love yourself more. You love the idea of security more. You love having someone manage your life so you don't have to be a grown-up. And I'm done being that person for you." He tried to argue, said he'd changed, said he'd learned his lesson, said destiny had been a mistake, and he could see clearly now. I cut him off. "Marcus, I'm not taking you back. The divorce is happening. You can either make it easy or make it hard, but it's happening." "What about the trust?" he asked. And there it was. The real reason for this conversation. What about it? Will you at least step down as trustee? Let me have control of my own money? I thought about his grandmother, about that conversation at my wedding reception, about the promise I made to protect Marcus from himself. "No," I said. "I made a promise to your grandmother, and I'm keeping it. You'll keep getting your monthly allowance. If you want to request a withdrawal for something legitimate, buying a reasonable home, starting a viable business, making a smart investment, I'll consider it like I always have. But I'm not giving you unlimited access to blow through $5 million on whatever your next crisis is." His face went hard. "You're doing this to punish me." "I'm doing this to honor a woman I respected who trusted me to do a job. Your behavior just proved she was right not to trust you with it." Marcus left without another word. I heard later that week he'd gotten himself a new lawyer who was apparently going to challenge my trustee status in court. I wasn't worried. I had documentation of every decision I'd ever made regarding that trust fund. Every conversation, every approval, every denial. All of it above board and in Marcus's best interest financially. His case went nowhere. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got the house, my car, half our savings. Marcus got his car and his monthly allowance from the trust fund. Destiny left him 2 weeks after the divorce was final. Apparently, she'd been hanging around hoping things would turn around financially. When she realized they wouldn't, she moved on to her next target. I heard she's dating some tech executive now. Good luck to him. Marcus is living in a 1-bedroom apartment and working his regular job. We don't speak. He had to get his mother to sign off on being an alternate contact for trust fund matters because he couldn't be professional in emails with me. As for me, I'm doing better than I ever expected. I started therapy to work through everything. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I took that trip to Italy I'd always wanted to take, but Marcus never wanted to go on. I'm even dating someone new, a kind man named David, who has his own money and his own life, and doesn't need me to manage either one. People ask me if I feel bad about keeping control of Marcus's trust fund, if I ever consider stepping down now that the marriage is over. And here's my honest answer. No, not even a little bit. Because his grandmother didn't make me trustee as a favor to Marcus. She made me trustee as a favor to me and to her family legacy. She wanted someone responsible, someone who wouldn't be swayed by emotion or manipulation, someone who would make hard decisions when necessary. Marcus proved she was right to have those concerns. He was ready to blow through millions of dollars on a fantasy life with a woman he barely knew. Without me as trustee, that trust fund would be half gone by now, and he'd have nothing to show for it but regrets and debt. So yeah, I'm keeping the job. I'm honoring my promise. And every month, when I approve his allowance and decline his requests for extravagant purchases, I think about that conversation at my wedding. Promise me you'll protect him from himself. I promised. And unlike Marcus with his marriage vows, I actually meant it.